Hey guys, I don't know about you, but the last 12 months has been a huge challenge for many people, whether it's emotionally, mentally, physically, or even financially. Many people have unfortunately lost jobs or had to move jobs. Some people have lost businesses and had to start again. Some people have even had to use up all their savings and begin in that journey of building up again. At the time of making this video, this time of year is a time of anticipation, but at the same time there are signals that next year poses pretty big challenges for all of us. We're expecting tax rises, we're expecting further rises with inflation. So given where we are, how should we then prepare ourselves for yet another year of potential uncertainty?
So today, we want to share with you 23 tiny money habits that would help prepare you financially for next year. These are small but very practical things that you can do literally today that will help prepare you better for the new year. Apart from this video, we have created a free 1-year action plan, and this is to help you take complete control of your finances and grow your money in the new year. You'll get an email every single week at the same time to help you win with your money.
Yeah, this 1-year action plan that Mary's talking about is essentially there to help you take what we're going to be sharing in today's video to a whole new level when it comes to actually implementing it. We're going to be sharing various tools and anything that's actually necessary to help you grow your money over the next 1 year. So definitely do make sure that you join in the links below and above.
And if you're new to this channel, I'm Mary.
And I'm Ken.
Of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. And what we do on this channel is give you the tips, the insights, and the practical hacks to help you take control, grow your money, and work towards a dream life of financial independence and money joy.
If you're loving the sound of today's video, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button, because believe it or not, that really helps to get our channel promoted to so many more people so that we can help them with their finances as well. Because we've got 23 points to share today, we split this video into 5 different parts. So part 1 is going to be all about understanding where you are. Part 2 will be protect your money. Part 3 will be about saving your money. Part 4 will be about growing your money. And part 5 will be about investing in yourself. See this video essentially as a step-by-step guide. Okay, let's dive in with part 1, understanding where you are. So what's our first point on that?
So for here, we're saying write down the top 3 emotions that you personally associate with money. This could be either anxiety, stress, worry, or even abundance. You know, just write those the first 3 things that come to your mind. What we're trying to do here is to figure out your current relationship with money. Do you have a good relationship with money or a bad relationship with money? Spend some time thinking about this and even writing down your thoughts on paper. This is just about being honest about where you are currently and not necessarily blaming it or blaming your situation on your partner or on yourself. It's all about being constructive.
Yeah. All right, so the second habit is taking stock of the last 6 months financially. Here we're talking about looking at your online banking and looking at what your financial life has looked like over the last 6 months. Is there evidence from your online banking, from your spending and so on? Is there evidence of a poor relationship with money? You know, what was your savings like over the last 6 months? Is there evidence of any impulse buying that might indicate some bad behaviors? Again, what we're trying to do here is really try and identify the root cause of where you might be in your financial life right now. And tackling that root cause is really what will help you then develop better habits when it comes to managing your finances in the new year.
Okay, next is to write down a list of everything that you own with value. Here we're talking about assets. It could be property, cash, savings, investments, etc. Make a list of them and be conservative about the value. Then work out the total of everything you own in your name that has some value. This will matter when we get to point number 5.
Yep. The next one here is to write down a list of everything you owe somebody. Okay, so here we're talking about your credit card balances, any short-term loans, your mortgage, any buy now and pay later balances, any unpaid rent, that sort of stuff. Here's a simple example to help guide you. You know, you've got here debt, so you write types of debt you've got, the amount you actually owe, and the due date that these amounts are actually due. And then at the very bottom, sum them up so you have a total amount you owe people, which we're then going to compare to what Mary mentioned earlier, to the total amount that you actually own in your own life. Now, another reason why actually seeing your debt visually like this is very important beyond working out your net worth. Another reason this is important is it just helps you accelerate paying off your debt quicker, i.e. it helps you develop that habit. Because if you come and look and you're able to visually see what debt you're owing, what the amounts are, when they're due, you're able to then decide what strategy you might focus on to pay off those debts, whether it's the avalanche method or whether it's the debt snowball where you're paying off the smallest amount of debt first and then moving on to the very next one. But the habit really here that underpins this exercise beyond working out your net worth is actually the habit of making sure that you are paying off debt as consistently as you can. Do we owe less than we actually own? Okay, and this is a really key metric because this is actually now telling us whether we have a positive net worth or whether we have a negative net worth. The key here is not to judge yourself. This starting point is actually a really important part of what will follow with the many other habits that we share on today's video. So don't be negative about it if you've got a negative net worth at this stage.
Okay, so point number 5 is to have a money conversation with someone you trust or with a partner. Now, this is a reality check conversation.
Yeah.
Many couples do not actually meet eye to eye when it comes to talking about money. It could literally be a trigger for some people. But as uncomfortable as it might be, money conversations have to be had because your life could easily go by, 10 years could go by, and those money conversations have not been had.
We saw this recently, actually, speaking to a couple in their 50s. The guy was in his late 50s, the lady was in her early 50s, where he'd been in charge of their finances and in charge of making investment decisions for their retirement. But because they never really spoke about money and because they had very different attitudes to money, he unfortunately made not very good financial decisions, which meant that the savings they had got depleted over time. But because they were not communicating, because they were not talking about it, she, who actually has pretty good skills when it comes to managing money, did not feel she had the confidence to step in and challenge those financial decisions. This is why money conversations are absolutely important.
Okay, so with money conversations, realistically, we'd recommend that you have one formal monthly meeting, diarised, and then many tiny conversations in between. Here are some questions to consider discussing each month. Okay, so start with a positive, like what would our dream lives look like in 5 years' time from now? This is all about dreaming together and really having that positive mood to get started. What is our goal over the next 12 months and how are we doing against it? How much have we made in total this month and from what sources? How much of that total have we spent and on what?
Big question, that one.
How much have we saved and invested and what's our goal for next month? What's our small reward if we achieve our goal? Because, there has to be some rewards in this.
Definitely rewards.
And what one thing can we do better next month?
I like that last question, actually, because you're always then building on the previous month in terms of, what could you do better each time? Because there's always something we can all do better.
Always.
All right, let's look at part 2, which is all about protecting your money. And the very first point is about appointing a home CFO. Now, the CFO is a title that stands for the Chief Financial Officer. It's a playful term for the sake of this video. But what we're really talking about here, and this is very important, particularly for couples in a married situation or in longer term relationships. Now, the reason you need to appoint somebody, imagine you've got 2 people in a relationship, right? There's, believe it or not, but there are situations, and this is more common than you might think, where nobody is actually in charge of the finances, okay? And the person in charge doesn't have to be the man in a relationship, in a typical conventional relationship. It could be, a woman, it could be anyone, provided it's somebody who is keen on taking on that responsibility and is actually quite good at doing the various bits of admin and staying on top of the finances. Now, note though, that although you've appointed somebody and said, hey, you're in charge of our finances, in that situation, if Mary was doing it, she would have to report back to me as the other person and vice versa if I was doing it as well. Because then there is complete transparency. So for example, if Mary was doing it, she'd have to show up each month and say, hey, this is how we're doing, here are our numbers, and actually show me proof of where we are financially. Here's how much we've got in this bank account, here's how much we've got invested in this, in our ISAs, and so on.
Next is to create a crisis budget.
So what is a crisis budget? Sounds a bit much.
Well, it simply assesses your situation and assumes certain scenarios such as what if you do not receive an income in the next 3 months or even in the next 6 months?
So it's like a shock type budget.
Exactly.
The worst case scenario type budget.
Worst case scenario. And it's asking, if this happens, how will you survive? How will you cope?
Wow, okay.
So for a super reliable budget tool to help you in this situation, we have the Budget for Life spreadsheet, which we're going to link above and below for you to check out and download for yourself.
Next is to negotiate terms where possible. So here I'm talking about your creditors or the people you owe money, okay? Now, as we think about next year, it's very important to kind of understand where you're at with various people you owe money. It might be your mortgage company. A very common one is people checking out to see whether they have the options for mortgage holidays. Doesn't mean you're going to take up these things necessarily, but it's just good to kind of understand what if certain things happen in your life. If you lost your job, what would happen with your mortgage? Can you take a holiday? Or other types of debt you might have in your life. Understanding what the key terms are and just being in a position where you're able to actually negotiate them definitely puts you a step ahead in the event that something does happen and life does get a bit more difficult financially.
Next is about deciding what expenses need to stay. Now, this isn't just about putting a line through all your expenses. No, it's about reviewing all your expenses and deciding which ones are essential and which ones truly add value to your life. For example, you might keep an expense because you know that it's helping you to grow and you're getting a return on your money. Now, we'll talk about this in part 5 of this video, so do hang around for that section.
Okay, so our final point on protecting your money is about insurance. Here we're talking about buying life insurance even if you don't think you need it. Now, this is of course a personal decision, yeah? But what we've noticed with the last 12 to 18 months with the pandemic is that the need for life insurance has shot up. Many more people require life insurance because many people's lives have changed. It's a bit of a delicate topic, but life insurance has become much more of an important consideration. And there are 2 reasons why this conversation is important to have now, sooner rather than later. The first is that the younger you are, the cheaper life insurance is. So I currently pay around £29 or £30 a month for quite a significant amount of cover. And Mary's the same as well. And the reason for that is because we took out our life insurance a few years ago. And the second reason it's important is that your youth, however young you are, means that you're more likely than not to get life insurance cover, because there are people who actually get declined from getting life insurance cover because they've applied when they've become a lot more unhealthy in their lives. So focus here on term life insurance. We made a very detailed video about it, which I'm going to link to below and above for you guys to head over and check out. Other forms of insurance worth checking out as well at this stage of your journey towards managing your money better next year is to look at other forms of insurance. Insurance is actually a pretty important thing. So checking, do you have adequate cover for things such as your home insurance or contents and buildings insurance and things like that? Or do you have need for the likes of critical illness cover, which is quite expensive, but might be something that you might need depending on your personal situation.
Okay, so now let's move on to part 3, save your money. Okay, number 1 is be clear on your savings rate. Many people don't actually have a fixed amount that they save each month. Deciding a percentage gives you something to aim for. We would suggest aiming towards 10% of your net income, for example. See this as a non-negotiable and save this before any other costs go out. Automate this and it will get you into the habit of consistent saving without you having to think about it.
Okay, so the next point is to decide on a stretch savings goal. Let's say, for example, that you've implemented the 10% suggestion that Mary made in a previous point, and you've been doing it consistently, let's say for 3 to 6 months. What would it then take for you to stretch perhaps and reach another savings rate? Let's say 20%, for example. Would it mean that you might need to earn more money, or would it mean that you might need to look around your life for certain lifestyle changes that you might need to make? Developing that habit of always trying to stretch that savings rate will do more for your life, not just today, because you're saving a lot more of your money, but it will help you achieve your future goals a lot faster. But the key is to focus on incrementally increasing that savings rate, even if you increased it by 1%.
Next is to choose cost owners and set goals around them. So for most people, their highest areas of cost include travel, rent, food, and childcare. If you're in a relationship, for example, choose owners for each costs. E.g., it could be your responsibility to ensure that you stick to a food budget, whereas it could be your partner's responsibility to ensure that the mortgage payments are being made, including any overpayments.
You actually see this in workplaces with budget holders. So you have people in departments who look after a specific area of a company's budget and they get to report back on that to make sure that they've actually stuck to the budget and so on. We're just applying that same idea you might see in your workplace, but this time to our personal finances. Now, this next one is to make sure you have an emergency fund. We've seen how important having an emergency fund has been over the last 12 months in each of all our personal lives, and it will carry on being very important over the next 12 months and beyond. If you've not built up an emergency fund of at least 3 to 6 months so far, we'd highly recommend checking out the video we made recently, sharing 10 different tips for how to save more and build up an emergency fund. We'll link to that video below. You should definitely go and check it out, as well as above, for you guys.
Next is to make savings visual. For example, updating a network tracker monthly can be very motivating, as you can visually see the asset section of your net worth increasing with your savings and your investments. So if you don't have a net worth calculator, get ours for free. We're going to link to it above and below for you to download.
Let's move on to part 4, which is all about growing your money. Okay, the first point here is keep your money invested in index funds and ETFs, even if you feel like selling. Everyone's talking about a crash. Crashes are nothing new. Crashes happen all the time. There will be a crash, definitely. Should you take your money out right now? No, don't take your money out. Leave your money invested. Now, there's a genuine concern around, obviously, interest rates going up and obviously with valuations in the stock markets being at historic highs. Those are all genuine things to be concerned about. But no one knows what tomorrow is going to bring. To be very frank, we can all speculate around the uncertainty, but uncertainty is inherent. You can manage the risk, though, by having your money invested in globally diversified index funds and ETFs. And that way you give yourself the best chance of still getting the market's return, no matter what happens.
Next is to negotiate and ask for an above inflation pay rise. Now, pay rises are actually given even during the worst economic conditions, but the only thing is that they're just not announced publicly. So the habit we're encouraging here is the habit of asking. Don't ever feel like you're so lucky to still have your job and that your employer is doing you this massive favor. No. Focus on what value you're bringing, and remember that your employers always have budgets. And if you don't ask for that pay rise, somebody else will ask and will get that pay rise.
100%. All right, so the next habit is to learn a new skill to make some extra money. Now, it's always a risk to put all your eggs in one basket. If you are completely new to this whole idea of trying to make some extra income from other sources, we've got a ton of resources to guide you. One in particular is a recent video we made around 50 best side hustle ideas, which I'll link to below for you to head over and check out. The fact that we've shared 50 ideas should not overwhelm you. The core goal is for you to focus on just one thing that you can focus on for a few months, perhaps even learn a new skill, but with a core goal of trying to generate some extra money and diversify your income to some extent.
Next is to review how you made money in the last 12 months and double down on what worked well. One thing that has consistently given us results is to review the sources of income that has given us the most income with the least amount of work, and then double down on that particular thing.
Good strategy, yeah.
For most people, this could be your job. So doubling down could mean doing everything you could possibly do to significantly increase your income via your job. We'll cover more of this in part 5 of investing in yourself.
All right, let's now explore part 5 on investing in yourself. And the very first point to mention here is to invest in high ROI programs that will help you not only learn, but also implement your ideas. We talked previously on this particular video about the whole idea of reviewing your expenses and not only keeping your essential expenses, but also keeping expenses that actually will help you generate a particular ROI. These types of expenses are actually not expenses, but in actual fact are forms of investment in your personal self. They actually add some economic value to your life. So you might invest making it up £100 and get back, after doing some work, get back £500, for example. Ongoing learning is very, very important. We shouldn't just be protecting what we've got. We should be looking to grow and develop new forms of income. So what we're saying here essentially is putting your money in an environment that offers you more than just information is fantastic. So anything that means that you are changing your behavior, for example, you're taking action and you're being supported in some way towards taking that action is an investment worthwhile. There's so many programs out there. Look out for people who you know or who you like and trust, people who you follow and enjoy what they do. We've got a program ourselves at Financial Joy Academy, but it's not the only one out there. Figure out one that actually suits the things you're trying to achieve, but the core things to make sure that you focus on actually putting some of your money, your net income that you make each month, towards actually investing in yourself for growth. I've written a few questions here for you to consider if you're looking to make this type of investment in yourself. First one is to ask yourself, what outcome am I looking for? Next, who can help me achieve it faster? Next, what would it cost me to make such an investment? And then finally, what could my return on investment be from making this type of investment? Okay, so you don't just make the investment, you also look at what return, and that return has to far exceed the investment you make yourself for it to be worth your while.
Next is to invest in your career. Now, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but here we're going to go in a bit more detail. Okay, so the first point when it comes to investing in your career is fully understand your job spec and what it would take to do your job very well. Next, for growth, understand what it would take to do your manager's job very well and stretch for some of that responsibility. This would make you become more needed by your employer. Next, could you do some further learning to perhaps acquire a specific skill, but you get sponsored by your employer?
All right, a really interesting one is to join a supportive community of like-minded individuals. Now, I heard a recent quote which really stuck with me, and it goes like this. It says, "Those who pay attention."
So true.
Now, I say that because I've known in my own personal life situations where whenever I've paid for something, I've always found myself pushing myself to make sure I got a return on that investment, no matter how small the amount is. I'm always trying to say, I'm paying, so therefore I should try and get a return on what I'm paying. But whenever I've just sat around or gotten something that's potentially valuable, but I've got it for free, I've found myself actually least likely to actually apply that idea, unless there are other factors that push me to make sure that I actually apply those ideas. So the habit we're encouraging here is the habit of getting yourself into a truly supportive community. It really, really does matter. And there are many out there, okay? So it's up to you to try and find one, but I'd suggest starting with someone who you know, someone who you like, and someone who you potentially trust. And you recall I mentioned that the only time I would actually do anything with free information was when there were other things at play. And one of those key things is to get yourself kept accountable. Do you want to speak to your speller?
So here we're talking about getting others to hold you accountable for your goals. All this learning about money means nothing if there's no one actually holding you accountable to achieving those goals. Research on financial literacy shows that knowing the information alone is not enough. People need other things to change around them, e.g. their environment. And one way of achieving this is via accountability, i.e. get somebody else to check up on you when it comes to your financial goals. You can start with your friends or your partner or even somebody who you've met in a community of like-minded individuals.
Guys, we've covered a lot on this video today, but to actually put a lot of those things into action, to be guided on a step-by-step basis, don't forget to definitely make sure you subscribe to that free 1-year action plan that we've created to help you take control of your finances and grow your money over the next year, okay? Put a link to that below, head over below, as well as above, for you to make sure you subscribe for free. And you get an email at the same time every single week with some very practical and actionable tips to help you move forward. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to hit that like button if you've not already hit that like button. Like we said earlier, it really does help our channel continue to be promoted to so many more people. Thanks again for watching today's video, guys, and as ever, in all things be thankful and seek joy.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.